I'm trying to find an appropriate background image for this video. I think that one works. There we go. That's much better. Hey guys, my name is Iasmina and welcome back to my channel. So one of my favorite parts of the Harry Potter series, especially when I was younger, was the whole magical school trope. It was so cool to me to see all of the different magical classes and teachers and all of the secrets hidden inside the school, you know, this really old magic school. And I really wanted more sort of exploration of all of the secret rooms in Hogwarts. I'm sure there was a lot more than we were told. And to this day, this is still one of my favorite tropes in fantasy, and I still seek it out to this day in books that I'm planning to read. If a book says it's set in a magical school, I'm in. So in today's video, I'm gonna recommend to you guys my favorite fantasy series set in magical schools. I'm obviously gonna skip the Harry Potter series because we all know about that, and it is the series that inspired videos like this and my love for magical schools. I'm gonna start with a book that I've read recently and that I really enjoyed. A more in-depth review will come soon, but that is the Summoner series by Therithmatist, and the first book is called The Novice. I've only read this first one, but I'm planning on reading the entire series because this was awesome. So in this world, the magic comes from summoners and their ability to summon demons from another world and use these demons as sort of weapons / companions. This series actually reminded me a lot of Harry Potter, also the setup of it. We follow the main character Fletcher, who comes from a very poor background and is orphaned, and then he finds out that he can summon a demon, and then he goes to learn how to harness these skills in a magical school full of other summoners, and we see classes, we see the teachers, so it's very similar to Harry Potter in that feel. A lot of books I feel like we don't really get that whole class scenes where we actually get to see the kids learning from teachers how to use these skills, but we do see that a lot in this book, so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And also the magic system is really cool. Next up, we have one of my favorite fantasy series of all time, and that is The Magicians by Lev Grossman. This is a trilogy. I'm showing it the wrong way, of course, but the first book is The Magicians, the second book is called The Magician's King, and the third and final book is The Magician's Land. So the premise of this series is, what if Harry Potter went to university of magic? So this is a more adult fantasy series, and the main character enrolls into a university that he thinks is a normal university, but no, it's a magic university, and we get all of that lovely stuff. It's a more, like I said, it's a more adult book, so it's definitely not for a younger audience, but it also says on a sticker here, Harry Potter for grown-ups, and I think it holds up to that, but it's really good. It's very dark and gritty, so don't expect a lot of lightheartedness from this. It is a very deep series in my opinion, and I absolutely loved it. And of course, the majority of this takes place in that university setting, so it's an awesome series. Check it out if you haven't already. And of course, I cannot make this video or any video talking about fantasy books without mentioning my favorite series of all time in fantasy, and that is the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. First book is named Win, the second book is The Wise Man's Fear. Unfortunately, he is still working on the third book, but hopefully we'll get that at some point. That's fine. Again, this series takes place in a magic school, or actually it's more like a university. I think it's more similar to The Magicians. It's an adult epic fantasy series, and we follow the main character Kvoth, who again starts off a bit of in a rough background, and then he goes to university to learn magic. And like I said, this is my favorite series of all time. The writing is beautiful, and the magic is really cool, and the world is really rich and awesome, and I can go on and on about the series, but I'm gonna try to keep this video short, but awesome series featuring, of course, a magical school. Next is The Therithmatist by Brandon Sanderson. Now, this is the only book in this series so far, and it used to be called a standalone actually, but from what I know, he is planning on writing more books in this series eventually, so I will put it here as a series. And of course, you guys know my love of Sanderson, and this book is no exception. It has an awesome magic system. So the magic system in this world focuses around chalk-drawn creatures, so the wizards in this world draw different creatures in chalk on the ground, and then those creatures come to life and they possess different magical abilities. And I thought it was really cool, and of course it takes place in a school where they learn how to harness these, I say harness a lot, how to properly use this magic. And as I mentioned, so far there's only one book in the series, so if you want something quick to read that doesn't take up a lot of your time, I think this is a great one. Next, I'm gonna mention a more middle grade series. This is The School for Good and Evil by Soman Chainani. So in this world, the concept, at least in the first book, is that there are two schools of magic, one for princesses and one for villains, and the two main characters in this book, their personalities say one thing, but then they're switched when they go to the school. So the character that's supposed to go to the princess school goes to the villain school and vice versa, and it was really, really fun. It's definitely intended for a younger audience, so just be aware of that, but it was super, super fun. And of course, it's all about their shenanigans in these magical schools and how they're not, neither of them are really fit to be in that particular school, but still they find ways to get around that. Next up, one of my favorite books of last year that I've read. This is Give the Dark My Love by Beth Revis. Now, this is a necromancy story, and the main character goes to a school of magic to study medicinal alchemy, but there's some darker undertones to the school and to the magic that she uses, and yes, there's something to do with necromancy. It's not a spoiler because it's in the description of the book, but it's a bit weird because it's one of those things that does happen a bit further on into the book, so it's kind of like I want to spoil it, but it does spoil it for you on the back, so I'm just gonna say necromancy. It's very dark. I absolutely loved this book, and it's gonna be a series. There's only one book out right now, but I loved it. It's very dark and very gritty, and it's awesome. And a lot of it takes place, most of it actually, all of it takes place in a magical school, and this is one of the things, a lot of books mention the fact that they have a magical school setting, but then it's only, you know, in the first chapter, and then the characters go explore the world, which is fine too. But if a book attracts me because it's set in a magical school setting, I want to see that setting for the majority of the book, and this does it. All of the books in this video do that, by the way. But this is one that I was kind of iffy about because I didn't know if that was the case, but I was very pleasantly surprised that it was. And finally, the last book that I'm going to recommend in this video is Bloodsong by Anthony Ryan. This is a hefty tome, but again, this is one of my favorite fantasy books of all time. I cannot recommend this book enough as well. I've only read the first one. It is a trilogy, but I'm planning on getting to the other ones soon. But this is, oh my god, this is awesome. If you like epic fantasy and you haven't read this, please read this. Now, the school in this series is a little bit different. It's not so much magic based as is sort of training. The character goes through a lot of training. I used to compare it to kind of The Wall from Game of Thrones, where Jon Snow goes to serve, but it's a bit more than that, but it's not as magical, I would say, as the other books in this video. It still follows the same premise down. The main character goes to this institution where he trains and learns new skills to become more powerful. So it's less magical, but it still has pretty much all of the things that you like about that sort of trope. Just slightly differently. That's why I kind of left it at the end, because it's slightly different than the rest, but I still highly recommend this series. Just regardless, in general, please read it. It's awesome. So that's it. Those were my recommendations for awesome fantasy series with a magical school setting. Of course, these are all books that I've personally read. So if you've read any that I haven't mentioned in this video and you think they're really good and the majority of them takes place in a magical school setting, please leave them in the comments below so that I can find more, and anyone watching this video who wants more magical school goodness can also find some more awesome series to read. And if you want more fantasy recommendations or general book recommendations from me, I have a playlist right here that you can check out, and obviously any other video on my channel would also be a good idea. If you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe, and I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!